Let's go over to Game Pass. Game Pass was trending on Twitter this week. Nate, I know you saw it because I think you mentioned it at one point, right? All right, Nate's not here. Oh, wait, no, he's here.
He's getting attacked by crickets.
Literal crickets.
They're loud.
Okay, Game Pass, Nate. Game Pass was trending. All right, this brought up a whole conversation once again around, I guess, the longevity of the service with developers in mind or publishers or studios, but it has to do with Square Enix, and I have some questions for Square Enix about this one.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear here. This is not a controversy for Game Pass. The sole, the sole problem in this matter is Square Enix. It has nothing to do with Game Pass.
Can I? Well, I mean,
this is not a Game Pass controversy. This is a Square Enix controversy.
Hold on. Controversy is defined as disagreement, typically when prolonged, public, and heated. And what I saw on Twitter the other day was certainly a controversy.
Yeah, that is because of generalizations by the masses. Don't know how to separate the two subject matters.
This says public and heated. That might as well just say Twitter.
The problem here was Square. It's not Game Pass. This is no different than the Disney contract with Scarlett Johansson. When you take money from Microsoft for a Game Pass deal, and then you make a deal with your developer, People Can't Fly, where you'll say, we will reimburse you or we will pay you based on sales. It's no different than when Disney said to Scarlett Johansson, we'll give you a bonus based on ticket sales, but we're also putting it on the streaming service. So we're going to undermine the deal we made with you. So Square was more than willing to take the money that Microsoft was going to offer them to put it on Game Pass, but they also knew that this would limit sales potential on the platform, especially, of the Xbox. So they set up People Can Fly for failure. So Square should be the one that is being held accountable for this. This is not a Game Pass issue.
So it was also brought up about Hades in the UK. This was actually written by Forbes, Paul Tassi. 93% of Hades box sales are on PlayStation.
I wonder why.
I mean, which raised another question there about that. These compounded on top of each other. Go to AJ.
They pushed. I think Xbox people just like buy digital a lot more too. I mean, I'm not saying that it sells more, but I just think that the Xbox base, they're just more moving towards Game Pass and digital.
Well, I mean, yeah, Hades just dropped on Game Pass, and like for me, at that point when it's on Game Pass, I'm like, I guess I'll just go ahead and hit this button and get it on Game Pass. Like, I'm not going to go out and buy it phically like that. Then I already have Hades anyway.
I did. I bought Hades physical for the PS5. That's coming in Sunday.
What's interesting about the deals for Game Pass is apparently there's a couple different kinds. Like there's one I think where you just get a lump sum up front, and there's other ones that are like with engagements or downloads. Like apparently there's a few different kinds. So like if Hades takes one where it's like, oh, how many downloads we get? I mean, they could be actually.
I mean, that can depend on the company. Like with Hades, if Supergiant Games is handling publishing and they're also the developer, when Microsoft comes in with a bag, they're benefiting from that 100%. They were the developer and publisher. With a case of Outriders, Square Enix is the one getting the money because they were the publisher. So People Can't Fly did not benefit from that deal.
I wonder.
That's where the discussion of the topic, it really comes down to nuance. You have to view the publisher in the instance of what are they doing and how transparent are they with the developer about a potential Game Pass deal and how are they transferring funds.
Is anyone concerned? Okay, go ahead, MG. Yeah.
Just real quick. So Randall Thor, my good buddy, said on Twitter that Square said that Outriders was on track to become the company's next major franchise.
I also have down here that they're very happy with the Game Pass Game Pass effect.
Where is the disconnect here? Where is the disconnect here? What's happening?
The disconnect there can be simply explained as Square Enix is viewing it as users. They are also, they're accounting for the Game Pass users. So they're saying we had 3 million people play the game, but we're omitting the fact that we only sold 500,000 copies. But we're viewing that as a success because we got X amount of millions from Microsoft. We saw a good amount of players engage with our game, and maybe we see a future for it. Now, you as the developer, you made that deal of we're getting paid based on sales. Well, the sales didn't come in. So Square's happy. They got a bag from Microsoft. They like what they saw as far as the base is concerned. But as a developer, you're angry because they basically undermined you and finessed you. And that's where the disconnect may be coming into play. So where Square made a mistake was not even a mistake because they still benefit from it, but had Outriders had some form of I hate saying it, if they had microtransactions, the game probably would have been more profitable for them in the long term, because you would have had those Game Pass users purchasing, whatever the hell the game offered in terms of MTX.
I'm a little confused about two things though. One, Outriders, they said they didn't want it to be a live service game, but it needs to connect to the internet for you to play it. That sounds like a live service game.
Everything about that game felt like a live service game.
Exactly. It's like they got to the end and they were like, maybe we'll pull these microtransactions out because I don't know, they're getting that deal through Game Pass or something.
Made it an instant not buy for me when I saw it.
That was weird to me, because I was like, why do I have to be online if like they're saying I can play through the entire thing by myself and it's not a live service?
I don't know why that triggered me so much, but it did.
It made it literally unplayable for a lot of people, and not just people with bad internet connections, but the first opening weeks, the game servers kept flickering, so it was kicking people offline. And then it turned out that people's save files were talking to the server, so people's save files were being corrupted.
Oh, they deleted the inventory.
So people were playing 300 hours farming the best legendaries, and then their character just vanishes. It was such a stupid system.
Yeah, and my other thing is, does anyone think it's weird that Square is in charge of tracking sales that would pay out royalties? And like people can fly. I have no idea how many copies have actually sold. So like, could they just never get royalties then? Because Square just be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
People Can Fly should have made a better deal with Square Enix.
That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like
we don't know the discussions that were had. We don't know how the contract was written up. And I believe they're working together again on another project. So they must have had some nice working relationship up to this point. And I mean, it's a real shame to see Square do something this shady. It's really disappointing that, I mean, this is corporate. This is business.
Nate, can I ask you a question?
They did with IO also, though.
Yes. And then look what happened. They lose IO. They make Hitman 3, and it's one of their biggest success.
Yeah, it recouped everything in like a week.
Yep.
So OJ. Sorry.
You're saying they got finessed? Like, how can you prove, or not how can you prove, but how do you know that they didn't know about the Game Pass deal beforehand? Like, how do you know People Can Fly didn't know about that Game Pass deal?
Well,
they may have learned about it towards the end of development, but probably not when they actually signed the agreement with Square in the early portions of the project beginning.
And there's also probably the chance that they assumed that the income from it might have been factored into the overall game sales as opposed to being held off and separate.
Yeah, I mean, let's use Quake. MVG, when you began development of this project, were you aware that this game could have been going to Game Pass?
No, I mean, that's not really something that developers think about. It's just really about building the game and shipping it, right? I mean, at some point there's a discussion, right? If the game does need to come to Game Pass, then we have to think about what we need to do to get it on Game Pass. But like, yeah, I mean, you're not really focused on that as a developer. You're just focused on getting the game out.
And if Jeff Grubb's information is accurate, the deal was made weeks in advance of the game's actual release. So this is something that may have come about very late into it, and maybe Square saw low pre-orders and they said, we have to make a pivot. Microsoft came in and said, we're going to give you X amount of millions to get this game on the service. And they said, let's do it.
And Max, what were you trying to say?
So I got to sit down with the developers and actually interview them in person about a year ago. And when I sat there and talked to them, they seemed very, very happy with the project. But one thing that kind of made clear is that it sounded like Square Enix kind of gave them full creative freedom. They could make the game whatever they want and put any mechanics they want. It sounded like that's part of the reason they worked with Square Enix. So maybe they were just so happy to have funding for this dream project they were working on that they weren't thinking about all the P's and I's and how's this going to pay out. And now it's kind of being like, all right, well, now where's the money? Oh no,
Oh, I see that in the chat. Jeff Grubb says that that Game Pass deal was made weeks before we heard about it. So that was pretty quick then. Jeez.
And one thing I've seen a lot in the chat is people saying, oh, look, Game Pass hurts sales. I don't believe Game Pass is the sole reason that sales of this particular product were low. The game wasn't really well received at launch. It had a lot of issues. It launched with some problems. It was buggy. It was glitchy. So had the game launched at, a 9 out of 10 and it was being highly praised, then you would have seen stronger sales on the Sony and PC platforms. So this just seems like it was a snowball of rough launch, Square taking a lot of money and not really divulging those details to the developer, and they took their money and ran.
I think we need more data on the whole Game Pass thing. Like, this is going to be something we're going to be watching throughout this generation, basically, to see how it does. Because we still need Microsoft to get back to releasing first-party titles anyway, because those are going straight into Game Pass. And I mean, we're going to get here soon because Psychonauts 2 at least is coming from them. That's this week coming up. So
might add, new IP. with the 70s, low 70s Metacritic, that's not a recipe for success.
Yeah. So.
As more and more people flock to Game Pass, right? Because it's a great deal for the consumer. Do you potentially see, like when we talked about, microtransactions could have possibly helped them with profits? Do you possibly see developers aiming more towards the Game Pass setup versus aiming just towards people buying it on PlayStation or PC? Because I don't know. For me, I'm just curious about, do you see games possibly changing their structure in the future?
I see what you're
services
saying.
like Game Pass, like
For
wouldn't this
subscription
encourage
service.
more?
Yeah, I do, and we haven't talked about Halo yet, but we will, and I think that's a prime example of
That's what I think about.
the way things are changing.
But also because this is so new, I feel like at least on the contract agreement side of things, there will be changes going forward where companies will be like, no, we have to pre-talk about the potential of Game Pass now of signing this contract, as opposed to waiting till later and getting screwed over.
See, that's the thing with Game Pass. There's some success stories. A lot of indie developers have come out and said Game Pass has actually boosted my sales to the point where they dwarf what we get on Steam or even Sony platforms and Nintendo. So for every success story like that, there's going to be a failure. And I know of some bigger name games that were on Game Pass that, due to the promotional aspect that Game Pass presents, due to the marketing as such, that they've actually been more profitable in terms of revenue than other platforms.
Well, do they have microtransactions in that though? How are they profitable then?
It's that people are playing the games and they're buying them with their 10% discount after the fact, saying, I really like this game, I want to own it now.
I think they also probably have lower, like Square's expectations got to be out of control for some of this stuff, to be honest. But like, I think if you're an indie developer and like the kind of money Microsoft puts in front of you covers basically all of your costs right then and there, you take that, right? Like, yeah, obviously. But if you're a larger publisher and it's like, it might, we'll see. Then I can see why you might think about it a bit more and be like, maybe we won't. We'll just drop it. And like Tales of Arise is a game that I thought Microsoft would have made a push for to try to get on Game Pass.
And it would make sense for them because the sales potential of Tales of Arise on the Xbox platform is limited. So let's get that on Game Pass because we're not really hurting ourselves. The majority of sales are going to be on the PlayStation brand anyways. But if we can get a few more interested consumers here, if you're Namco, take the bag from Microsoft, or wait 6 months, launch it, get X amount of sales, and then take the bag for Game Pass
Scarlet Nexus.
later.
That should have been on Game Pass. That blows my mind. It wasn't on Game Pass.
But let's say it comes in the next couple of months. It was a smart move by them because they got X amount of sales. They made that money, and now they're going to take a few $1 million from Microsoft. So they double dipped and walked out with higher profit.
I think that the best thing to do, like indie games, I think those are maybe a bit better for Game Pass because of the development budget and what they'll give you for it up front. I think the bigger games, it might affect things. I saw, and this is, you can't use the internet, but so many people didn't buy Scarlet Nexus on Xbox because they felt that it should have been a Game Pass game. So it works both ways. It's like, yeah, you can get a bag and everything, but what happens when it doesn't go to Game Pass?
There is a game, there is a game that is suffering from that right now. It is a travesty on Xbox for this. Death's Door should be at 1 million sold right now.
Is it not on Game Pass?
And it blows my mind that people are not buying this game because it is that good of a game. It's $20.
The psychology is I'm going to wait for Game Pass.
That's
so
20.
I get what everyone's saying, but you have to look at the consumer side and they're like, well, it's going to be on Game Pass. It's going to be on Game Pass. I'm going to wait. And then maybe it never comes to Game Pass. Then the game doesn't. Scarlet Nexus is already $45. They're already discounting it. They're saying that, they're going to get to 1 million sales by next year. It's going to get to 1 million by next year.
I think Death's Door sold 100,000 copies and they're happy with that. But I feel like I want to say a good majority that's probably on the PC side with Steam, to be honest. I think
that game should have done.
It's on Steam, right, Evan? That's not an Epic Games one.
I think that should be a Steam one.
I have to double check. I got it on the Xbox, but like I saw it, I was like, this game is really good. And it actually gets talked about quite a bit. Got good reviews on Metacritic. That might be the indie game at the end of the year that finds its way into the Game of the Year discussion. And I think it should be at 1 million sold at $20 already. So,
well, if it gets in that discussion, it might spur sales.
I also saw someone in chat bring up Plague Tale going to Game Pass, and now he's picking up the sequel for sure. That I loved
go.
Plague Tale. I picked it up and purchased it. I can't wait to play the sequel. And in this situation, that might also be a good thing.
Yeah, if you get the older game, like the first one, you put it into like Game Pass, and then the newer ones coming up anyway. That's a good way to get some nice advertisement as well. Just throw it in there, let people try it, and see what they think.
I mean, it's tough. You have to view it situation by situation in terms of the software being released on the platform. There's no universal,
Absolutely.
It's no universal blueprint that they can follow that's going to say, this is going to do this.
We see how these companies are looking more towards these subscription services, like Ubisoft doing it, EA's doing it, and we saw what happened with the movie side of things, where like everyone's just like on-demand video, and that's why there's this assumption that we will eventually get to a point where it's all subscription services for games. And I mean, I don't know. It's a bit interesting right now looking at how Game Pass is going currently.
I think Nintendo's stubbornness of being a Japanese company and a very Japanese company.
Don't get me started on Nintendo with this.
But I think that'll be a strength where they won't do a subscription service. Whether you like that or not, that's up to you. But I think they'll preserve the sanctity of a game release.
They should have 100 million subscribers like right now if they took their legacy stuff and built it
of course
everywhere just as their legacy games, and it's just a subscription thing you just subscribe to.
Sony is going away. Sony's like going towards, no, we want $70 big release, so they're being defiant as well.
Yep.
Sony's being extremely defiant on that, and they're standing their ground. People thought that they would oh no, we'll ease up on this 70, maybe. No. All the big games are going to be 70. Like they're not backing down from that. So,
it's going to be interesting. Like I said, this generation, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Another way to look at it is just options. I mean, maybe let's be realistic here. One of the things that I think a lot of us probably aren't even thinking of is, you talk about third-party games, and how they're sort of, they're universal. A third-party game will come out on both the PlayStation and the Xbox. Maybe there'll be a version for the Switch as well. Just sort of depends on the schematics of it. But could you see a point where companies say, well, I want our third-party game to be viewed as a $70 game, or a company can say, well, I want our game to be a Game Pass game, and then you start seeing multi-platforms essentially start to dwindle a little bit because you're essentially picking a side. Do you see your game? Do you think it's better for your game to be a full retail release, or do you think that your game would be better off on a subscription style service?
Why not both?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, both is what we have right now, but you got to look at the books eventually and be like, well, this is what's working for us and this isn't what's working for us. And if one of those areas isn't working for you, obviously it won't be, it's definitely a case by case basis, I feel. But I think there are some games, that will either one way or the other sort of lean into that. I'm sorry, Click, what were you saying?
No. I mean, I was going to agree with him on that too. But also, I feel like it almost seems like what people were saying, like indie developers, third party developers, it kind of sounds bad, but I have a lot of friends who are artists, right? And they'll get a lot of streamers who are like, hey, I'd love to commission you for art, but I don't have the money. Can I pay you an exposure? I'll just spread your name around and I'll advertise for free for you if you make all the. I'm sure Evan gets that all the time.
Oh, yeah, he does.
I'll literally pay you an exposure.
Just got uncomfortable. He was like,
yeah, Evan's like, oh, that's like my trigger word. I feel like almost like that is kind of how indie developers might approach that in a situation where it's like, okay, well, it kind of is exposure. It's getting their name out. It's doing the advertisement for us, it's putting us on a banner of some sort. But at what point is there a game, where it is a bigger ticket game, it is a game that they feel like is worth more? Because I feel like in a way people are saying, oh, if it's on Game Pass, it's not worth buying, versus some people will be like, I played it on Game Pass, I liked it, I'll buy it separately. I don't think that's the majority of people. I think people are going to play it on Game Pass, they'll play it once, they'll play it till it's gone or till they're done with it, and then they'll never touch it again, they'll never think about it again. I think oftentimes it would be a more benefit for those people who feel like their game is bigger than a subscription service, to where they want people to buy that, own it, if it's physical or digital, and then they choose what to do with it afterwards. It's not just like an afterthought. So to me, it's almost like, okay, well, if it's the indie developer third party kind of thing, I can understand the exposure thought. It's probably way more widespread than you would have by yourself. But I could totally, again, with Sean, I could see people just realize, hey, this isn't really worth having it on a subscription service. We're going to have it as a separate purchase on its own. And again, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it develops, because this is like a new economy almost. So time still will tell, but I don't know. I understand Sony's take. I understand Nintendo's take. I think Xbox has, Microsoft has their own take on it as well. I don't know. It's just a lot right now. But for me, it just seems like a whole exposure thing right now.
I mean, Xbox for me is Game Pass machine. That's all I use it for now. I don't buy games on Xbox anymore. I just use, if it's on Game Pass, I'm going to play it. If it's not like Death's Door, I'm going to wait for it to turn up on Game Pass eventually.
I might gift you the game.
Oh, I would love it. Please do.
I might have to. Someone else has to play Death's Door. Well, Max played it. Someone else has to play it. Someone else here has to play Death's Door.
I'll play it.
I think you would like it a lot, MG.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it, and it's not that I'm a cheapskate. I don't want to pay $20 for it. I just feel like eventually it's just going to hit Game Pass, and I'm going to play it then.
Click, you should play it on stream. I think it'd be a good time.
I thought it was funny because during that direct that they announced it was the digital Devolver one, wasn't it?
Devolver. Yeah.
Like the game right before it, I was like, man, I love this aesthetic. It looks so cool. And then I found out it was a card game. I'm like, okay, never mind. Like I want like dodge rolls and parries and running around. And then literally Death's Door they showed right after. I'm like, that's the game. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. And obviously I'm still playing Mass Effect. It's been like almost 3 months at this point. But once I'm done, Death's Door is on that list for sure because I really want to check it out.